Hello again, and welcome to video number 2 in your 3-part training series. First, we'd like to thank everyone for all the overwhelming support and positive feedback that we've gotten so far. We've gotten so many great comments, emails, and messages from you guys, and we're doing our best to respond to each one of them. The tricky thing about creative editing is that every situation is different. That's probably why most books and learning resources out there stick mainly with high-level theory, because it applies to everything and nothing at the same time. That works a little though, since that information ends up sitting somewhere in the back of every editor's mind, and it can help guide them occasionally as they're sitting in front of their editing system. But more often than not, it's tough to translate those theories into relatable action on your current project. After analyzing the work of hundreds of talented editors and combining all of our own experience, we found that there are certain types of situations that come up again and again. Whether it's how to elegantly transition from one scene to another, how to build suspense in a moment, or how to add energy to a boring cut. Our lessons are specifically designed to give you the tools and the information you need to skip past a lot of the slow and painful trial and error that most editors have to suffer through. In the first video, we talked about some of the core skills and attributes every editor should possess. We also touched on a wide range of real-world editing challenges you might face, and discussed some of the ways to quickly overcome them. And, most importantly, we talked about the value of learning from the experience of other editors, rather than trying to figure out everything on your own. Like we said before, reinventing the wheel is a waste of time, and wasting time can cost you. In this second video of your 3-part series, we're going to simulate for you the experience of looking over the shoulder of a professional editor. We're going to analyze several scenes that demonstrate some very high-level editing. Then, we're going to reconstruct those scenes in our own editing software to show you exactly how it's done. Along the way, we're going to start by teaching you how to use sound design, on-screen movement, and careful audio mixing to create a smooth and professional transition from one scene to the next. We're also going to discuss an elegant way for you to let your audience see and hear the thoughts of your film's character, without using any sort of cheesy editing effects to sell it. So let's start out by taking a look at some polished and professional edits created by film editor James Herbert and well-known director Guy Ritchie. Then we'll deconstruct these edits a little bit, and we'll talk about what makes them work so well. Alright. This scene has a number of examples of skillful editing techniques. Let's start with something deceptively simple, a scene transition. Take a look. Alright. So what made that transition so elegant and effective? Let's break it down. We start first with a shot of Sherlock sitting at a dining room table in a restaurant. The sound is mostly background ambience of people talking and dishes clanking, with a low, sustained musical drone. We are currently grounded in this scene. But as the camera pushes in, the editor gradually starts to fade in the ambience of the next scene, as well as a lively piece of music that changes the energy of the moment entirely. As the audio levels on the music and sounds from the next scene increase, the editor uses a quick movement of the character's eyes to initiate a hard cut into the next scene. Now, to really sell the transition, the cut occurs at the same time the music starts the lyrics, and the cut is accented by the sound of a punch and quick on-screen movement of Sherlock getting knocked back against the wall. Alright, so let's look at it one more time. So, to create this transition, the editor cut on movement both into and out of the transition, and used music and sound to build up the intensity and kick off the next scene. Overall, it's a really effective and professional scene transition that beats the heck out of a fade to black, like this one. So now let's take a look at the scene that we just transitioned into. This scene is a really great example of how to let your viewer see inside a character's mind and hear his thoughts, simply by changing the style of the editing to give the scene a different feel from the rest of the film. Let's start off by watching this 1-minute clip.
You won, congratulations.
Oi, we ain't done yet!
This mustn't register on an emotional level. First, distract target. Then block his blind jab. Counter with cross to left cheek. Discombobulate. Dazed, he'll attempt wild haymaker. Employ elbow block. And body shot. Block feral left. Weaken right jaw. Now fracture. Break cracked ribs. Traumatize solar plexus. Dislocate jaw entirely. Heel kick to diaphragm. In summary, ears ringing, jaw fractured, 3 ribs cracked, 4 broken, diaphragm hemorrhaging. Physical recovery 6 weeks. Full psychological recovery 6 months. Capacity to spit it back of head neutralized.
Alright, let's deconstruct the editing a little bit. The scene starts out in real time and has a standard immersive feel to it. You're in the scene. The editor has layered it with character dialogue,
Oi, we ain't done yet!
crowd walla, and a couple sound effects. The interesting editorial transition happens when the other fighter spits on Sherlock. The audio levels of the crowd noise dip slightly, and the camera focuses on Sherlock's face. Then we hear his voice while his mouth is not moving.
This mustn't register on an emotional level.
The quality of his dialogue is also very present.
This mustn't register on an emotional level.
Without any of the room echo, we could hear a bit in the voice of the other fighter when he spoke.
Oi, we ain't done yet!
This all gives the impression that we're hearing the character's thoughts. Next, a bassy whoosh is layered in as the volume of the crowd is dropped to near 0. At the same time, the footage goes from 100% speed to something closer to 20 or 30% of that. The footage on set was probably filmed at something around 120 frames per second. So, more than likely, the shot that looked like it was playing in real time was probably actually some 120 frame per second slow-mo footage being played at 500% speed to appear normal, and then it was dropped down to its 100% speed, which in this case happens to be slow motion. Make sense? The scene continues with Sherlock narrating his thoughts and imagining his movements in the fight.
First, distract target.
The various moves are executed between the narration and are sped up substantially.
Then block his blind jab.
Each time the narration continues, the speed returns to slow motion, so the viewer can absorb what's being said and anticipate the next sped up move.
Counter with cross to left cheek. Discombobulate.
The various moves are also accented using different pieces of deep and echoey sound design, like whooshes, hits, animal sounds, and human grunts. All sounds are treated with liberal use of reverb and EQ effects to give everything a surreal quality. Now, to exit the illusion of hearing and witnessing Sherlock's thoughts, the editor uses a jarring jump cut on Sherlock from slow motion back to real time, and then he fades up the crowd noise as we hear the last piece of narration.
Capacity to spit it back of head neutralized.
The impressive thing about the editing used to accomplish all this is that the editor did not have to resort to visual effects like glows, superimposing, and flutter cuts to convince us that we were in the character's mind. It was all accomplished with the use of speed effects, sound design, audio mixing, and narration. Techniques like the ones that we just looked at are the subtle characteristics you'll notice in the work of professional editors that often goes unseen and underappreciated. They're part of what makes a cut excellent and professionally polished, versus just pretty good. So, by now, you know that the craft of film editing is a complex and intricate art form. You also understand the need to really master your skills to stand out from the crowd. Now, we've all heard the phrase, "It's not what you know, but who you know." And who you know is indeed a big part of being successful in the entertainment industry, or any industry for that matter. But I'll tell you the truth, that's a drastically oversimplified expression. Connections and networking opportunities will only get you so far if, when the time comes for you to deliver the goods, your work is subpar, or your skills are lacking or amateur. And there's something you should know. Over the last few years, the bar has been raised a lot. Companies like Netflix, FX, and HBO are producing TV shows that are better than most feature films. Independent financing and online content creation is giving almost everyone the tools and the resources that they need to get their work in front of thousands or even millions of people. And a lot of the work is very good. The current job market offers almost unlimited opportunities for talented editors and filmmakers. Combine all this with the availability of inexpensive and powerful software, and almost anyone with the right skills can build the career of their dreams. But there's a flip side to this coin, and it reminds me of a quote. It goes something like this: "We have met the enemy, and he is us." At the same time, it's gotten so much easier for you to gain access to professional tools and a massive online audience. It's also gotten easier for everyone else. For example, in 2014, the total number of films submitted to the Sundance Film Festival was 12,218. You know how many films got in? Only 185. That's about a 1.5% success rate. Now, I'm not saying this to depress you. I'm saying this to point out how absolutely crucial it is for you to stand out in some way, ideally by being a lot better than the next guy. And let me say, the fact that you care enough about your skills and your career to be watching videos like these and seeking information, it shows that you've already got a work ethic and a drive that'll give you an advantage over the vast majority of your competition. In a couple days, we'll be sending you your third video. In this video, we're going to talk about the steps you can take to really apply all these skills and master your craft, setting yourself up for a successful future in entertainment. We'll also be giving you a logical and reliable creative editing blueprint. This blueprint is going to cover the entire creative editing process from start to finish. We'll talk about strategies you can use to increase your confidence, increase your editing speed, improve the quality of your final product, and avoid becoming overwhelmed by difficult scenes. If you have a second, we'd love it if you could leave a comment below and tell us what got you into editing and filmmaking in the first place. Was there a certain movie that inspired you? A book? A person? Or do you just love telling stories? Leave a comment below and share your story with us.